The room fell completely silent. A single spotlight illuminated him, a janitor in his worn uniform, standing on a stage he never thought he would be forced onto. Everyone in the audience, including the famous singer, was staring. The laughter started quietly, then grew louder as she waved a hand and said he should sing, mocking him with a smile that cut sharper than any knife. He swallowed hard, heart hammering, hands trembling at his sides. How had he ended up here? Everyone expected failure. Everyone expected embarrassment. And yet something inside him stirred, a quiet, impossible hope. Before we dive deeper into this incredible story, make sure to subscribe to Kindness Tales for more heartwarming stories that remind us of the power of human connection. Like, share, and tell us your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing from you and celebrating kindness together. He had always been a quiet man, working long hours, sweeping floors, and emptying trash in a small theater, tucked into a bustling corner of the city. His life was simple, routine, and invisible. People rarely noticed him. He wasn't looking for fame or recognition. He just wanted to do his job well and go home to his modest apartment where the hum of the refrigerator was a steady companion to his solitude. Music, however, had been a secret escape. He would hum softly while polishing the stage, letting his voice rise and fall, letting the melodies carry him somewhere far from mops and dustbins. Few ever heard him, and fewer still suspected that behind his quiet demeanor was a voice so powerful, so perfectly tuned it could stop anyone in their tracks. That afternoon, the theater had been alive with excitement. The famous singer, known for her diva-like temper and viral performances, was hosting a special showcase. He had been there early, as always, tidying up, sweeping confetti and wiping down the railings. He was invisible, just part of the background. Then came the moment she noticed him. Maybe it was the way he hummed quietly while moving through the aisles. Or perhaps it was just a whim of her playful cruelty. She pointed at him, laughing, and told the crowd, "Let's hear him sing. Surely he can't hit a note worth mentioning." The audience tittered, a mixture of nervousness and amusement spreading like wildfire. He froze. He wanted to sink into the floor. His palms were slick with sweat, and his throat felt dry as sandpaper. Every instinct screamed to run, to hide, to retreat into the shadows where he belonged. Yet as he looked out at the expectant crowd, he realized something strange. He didn't feel fear. Not exactly. He felt a flicker of something far more daring. He had spent years singing when no one was listening, and suddenly, for the first time, someone was forcing him to be heard. If he didn't, the humiliation would be absolute, but if he did, maybe something incredible could happen. He cleared his throat. One tentative note escaped, quiet and shaky. The room tensed. The famous singer raised an eyebrow, a smirk curling at her lips, certain of the impending disaster. Then he tried again, a little louder, smoother this time. The note held, a second note, then a third, richer, more confident, resonated through the theater. Murmurs began to ripple through the audience. They were hearing something unexpected, something real, something breathtaking. It wasn't just the purity of the notes, it was the emotion, the vulnerability, the raw honesty that wrapped itself around every word. He sang like he had nothing to lose because, in that moment, he truly didn't. The famous singer, whose world had always revolved around applause and perfection, blinked. Her smirk faltered. She had expected embarrassment, ridicule, easy laughter at someone beneath her station. Instead, she heard a voice that carried beauty she had never known, notes she could not reach, phrasing she had never imagined. It was haunting, tender, and unapologetically human. The audience fell silent, captivated. Some had tears in their eyes, some mouths slightly open in disbelief. He was not just singing. He was transforming the entire room with something deeper than performance. Authenticity, courage, and the power of being completely oneself. The performance stretched on, seemingly endless, yet every note felt like it passed in an instant. He sang songs he had known since childhood, melodies remembered from a radio in a dusty living room, songs never meant for anyone but himself. He let himself feel the music, let the vibrations rise from his chest and carry out into the world. The famous singer, once the queen of this stage, now watched in stunned silence as the janitor, the man she had mocked, became the center of something she could neither control nor replicate. She had used him as a joke, but in doing so she had unearthed a voice that reminded everyone that true talent does not belong to the privileged or famous. It belongs to anyone brave enough to embrace it. By the end of the song, the theater was enveloped in a quiet awe, a reverent pause that hung in the air like a fragile jewel. Then slowly the applause began, soft at first, then swelling into a roaring ovation that shook the seats and echoed in the rafters. People were standing, clapping, cheering, some wiping away tears. And in that moment, the janitor's eyes glistened. He had never imagined recognition like this, not from the elite, not from anyone. But here it was, born from something he had kept secret, something that no one could take from him. He had been forced into the spotlight, and he had risen not because he wanted to, but because he could not deny his own truth. The famous singer stepped back, her expression unreadable. There was no laugh now, no cruel commentary, only a stunned silence that seemed almost apologetic. Later, she would admit privately that she had been humbled, that she had learned a lesson about arrogance, assumptions, and the quiet power of those we often overlook. The janitor walked off the stage, not with a sense of triumph, but with a quiet satisfaction that only comes from being true to oneself. People stopped him in the halls, offered compliments. Some even asked for selfies, which he accepted awkwardly but with grace. He returned to his mop and bucket later that evening, but the theater now felt different. The walls, once simply scenery for the rich and famous, had witnessed something extraordinary, a reminder that talent and courage often hide in the most unassuming places. Over the following weeks, the stories spread. Social media buzzed with videos of the janitor's performance, headlines celebrating the unexpected hero who sang notes the star could not reach. Yet despite the attention, he remained humble, returning each day to his work with the same dedication, the same quiet joy that had always defined him. He did not seek fame. He sought the small happiness that came from knowing he had shared something real, something powerful. And in doing so, he reminded countless others that everyone has a voice, and sometimes the world needs those voices the most, when they come from places no one ever notices. The experience changed not only him, but the people around him. The theater staff treated him with newfound respect. The performers began listening to each other rather than just competing, and even the famous singer, in her private moments, reflected on what it meant to truly connect with an audience. It became a story of kindness in a subtle but profound way, kindness toward oneself, the courage to be authentic, and the recognition that sometimes the person we underestimate the most can teach us the greatest lessons. In a world where people are often judged by appearances or status, his voice reminded everyone that human worth is not measured by fame or wealth, but by the authenticity and generosity we bring into the lives of others. Years later, he would still walk through that theater, mop in hand, humming softly to himself. Occasionally, someone would recognize him, smile and say, "You sang that day like no one else could," and he would smile back, shrug and continue his work, knowing that the true reward was never applause or attention, but the moment he dared to let his light shine even when it felt impossible. It was a story of quiet heroism, of courage born from ordinary life, and the kind of kindness that begins with believing in oneself. In sharing his voice, he had touched hearts, inspired others, and reminded the world that sometimes the smallest, most overlooked among us can create the largest impact. The lesson lingers long after the applause fades. Life will always present moments that test our courage, that push us into places we feel unprepared to go. And often, it is in those moments, when we are dared or even forced to step forward, that we discover strength we never knew existed. Kindness, in its truest form, is not just about helping others. It's about recognizing the beauty, talent, and potential in every person, regardless of their title or circumstance. So if you take anything from this story, let it be this: see people, honor their gifts, and never underestimate the quiet power that lies within. Every voice matters, every act of courage ripples outward, And every moment of genuine human connection can transform the world in ways we can scarcely imagine. Share your own stories of kindness. Celebrate the unexpected heroes around you. And remember that sometimes the person least expected to shine may light the entire room.